Okay, so this is the next chapter, so to speak. We've looked at, whoops. Let's go back. Okay, we've looked at where we are, we've looked at the challenge, we've looked at the potential for this project to give people hope by it not just being about fixing something, but about transforming into an economic system that offers capabilities that bring that balance in the haves and have-nots together, or into balance. The have-not world is out of balance. We want to have a balanced world on the road towards global prosperity. So just to give you a little bit of comfort, this is not stepping outside the car to notice that you're in the water. This is stepping outside our human timeline to let you see that we are in a recognized process. This is a clip from a series called The Day the Universe Changed, produced and written by the British historian James Burke. It was first on public television in the late 1980s, and literally just last month became available in its full 10-episode uncut glory for a relatively bargain price of $150. In the past, you could only buy it for a price as if you were a teacher, where every episode was like $75. So all 10 episodes was like $750. So it's now in the realm of ordinary folk like me. So I just bought a set. And I would like us to, as part of this effort, the educational part, find the time to at least watch one of the 1-hour episodes so you can really experience what the man is teaching, not just a little taste I'm going to show you here. Some of you saw it 2 weeks ago. It's always good to see you. Especially if, here we go.
Let me tell you a joke. Somebody apparently once went up to the great philosopher Wittgenstein and said, what a lot of morons people must have been back in the Middle Ages to have looked every day at what's going on behind me now, the dawn, and to have thought that what they were seeing was the sun going around the earth. Well, as every school kid knows, the earth goes around the sun, and it doesn't take too many brains to understand that. To which Wittgenstein replied, yeah, but I wonder what it would have looked like if the sun had been going around the earth. Point being, of course, it would have looked exactly the same. In other words, you see what your knowledge tells you you're seeing. Well, that's what this series is going to be about. How what you believe the universe to be and how you react to that belief in everything you do depends on what you know. And when that knowledge changes, for you, the universe changes. And how that is as true for the whole of society as it is for the individual. We all are the result of what we all know today. What people knew yesterday was different, and so were they. So that's why this series will also look at the past, at the way we were, because of the things we knew that were different from today. And at how, through history, every time the knowledge changed, and with it our view of the universe, something was also created that would help to make us the way we are in the modern world today.
So in this series, he goes back thousands of years to show wonderful examples of cultural change based on the discovery not of new things, but of new ideas. There's one episode where he shows that until a certain point in time, every painting that was ever painted didn't show things in any kind of a realistic perspective. And then someone discovered the whole notion of the line of sight that goes out to the distance. And all of a sudden, you were able to paint things with things in the foreground and things in the background. there was a time when there was no such thing as foreground and background paintings, because the concept of line of sight, I'm perhaps using not quite the right terminology, hadn't been thought of yet. People had to think of things like line of sight. Just like they've had to think, maybe the world is round. But before that thought, the world wasn't round, at least not to us. Now, it's an interesting way you contrast this notion of individual knowledge and factual reality. Because I once did a little mental exercise on this classic butting heads issue of evolution versus creationism. There are people who say the Earth is 4,000 years old, and others say, no, it's 4 billion. Well, here's what I realize if you take a step back. The Earth as a non-sentient world developed from rock, lava, microbes, whatever, for thousands and thousands and billions of years. And then animal life started to develop. And then there was a moment when whatever animal it was, ape, whale, dolphin, who the heck knows, became self-aware. Instead of being totally focused on survival, on, you know, am I going to get gobbled up by some other big animal out there, the animal had the thought, I exist. And, you know, there's that whole line in the Bible. First there was the Word, so it's like that kind of language, and let there be light, you know, being awareness, sentient. The whole notion of animals becoming self-aware. At least as far as I'm concerned, I'm comfortable with the idea that the notion of creation and that Earth is only like 4,000 years old, that's all about awareness. And the times when animals became able to have awareness. Billions of years before that, all they were doing was worrying about being gobbled up, and that was a total, that wasn't thinking like we know it. That was just instinct, you know what I mean, right? So why do we have to have this argument that, oh, there's only one or there's only the other? There's both. There's evolution and there's however long we've been sentient. Maybe not 4,000 years. You get my point. So these things can coexist. We don't have to always be at war. If we understand the notion of the evolution of thought. So we're at a similar point. Of course, I haven't shown you any of the points that he portrays, but by going all over the world and having actors recreate those time periods, he shows all the other times in history, or a whole lot of them. And we are in one of those times now. We are transitioning. It's like as if line of sight had just recently been discovered. It's like as if the notion of there being enough for everyone was only recently discovered. Because the science for providing the power we need without global warming cooking us, and providing the education we need without everybody needing to go to Harvard, because you can get a lot of education without going to Harvard. These things are now possible. So that's where we are. And I like that our work fits into another aspect of history, because while James Burke's episodes tend to focus on the random nature of ideas crossing paths, in my research I've seen that history hasn't always proceeded because of randomness. It has sometimes been orchestrated. And by that I mean there have occasionally been efforts where new information didn't just fall out of a tree, like the apple falling into Sir Isaac Newton's lap. It was done consciously. And it was done by the American media and entertainment industry. And not just by the American, but the ones that I like to talk about are examples that took place here. Danny Kaye, Assignment Children, was a film consciously made by Paramount that showed Danny going to underdeveloped parts of the world. He was the very first ambassador for UNICEF in the 1950s, bringing the story of UNICEF's work to the American people.